plan, and this is on page 95, what things were going to be a little bit different with this project. And those criteria have been implemented as part of this plan because of the makeup, and it was different, but it still holds true today. This was in a comprehensive plan, and the applicants this evening have seen that and have kept this in the back of their mind through the process. So with that, that gives a little bit of background on the parcels. Welcome this evening. Thanks for coming over. And Troy, I'm going to turn this over to you. Go ahead and kind of preview what's in front of us from the planning perspective, and then we can open it up to the folks from Mayberry if they have any additional comments, and then comments from the board. So thank you.
Yep, thank you. Just to kind of start off with what we're looking at, this is a planned development. The process to go through for planned development, there are three primary steps. The first part of that's it's referred to as a conceptual review. That's what we're at tonight. And that basically is where the applicant or developer has an idea. They present a plan, kind of a concept plan, to the Planning Commission and to the board. Neither the Planning Commission nor the board will actually give a formal determination of it. However, they'll give feedback. And the developer then is faced with a question of either moving forward with the project or not, or changing the project in a different way. And that's the purpose of the conceptual review, is to give a developer or an applicant an opportunity without expending too much time or money on a conceptual plan to come before the Planning Commission and the board to get comments. And then if the developer or applicant decides to proceed, the next part of this process in the plan development is called the preliminary review. And that term is maybe a little deceiving, but that involves the developer spending a lot more time and money and energy on putting together more detailed plans. And that part of the project would be a public hearing. So at that stage, the township would send notice out to properties within 300 feet. We would also post in the newspaper for the public hearing of the preliminary phase. It would go to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission would make a formal recommendation. Then it would come to the board, and then the board would make a determination on the preliminary phase of the project. Then we move on to the final part of it, referred to as the final phase. And at that point, we're more or less looking at what's commonly called legal instruments. They would be the master deed and the plan development agreement. We're not really looking at a site plan anymore at that phase. We're looking at the requirements and standards that are part of the plan development agreement, as well as standards in the master deed document that will go with the property. And assuming that gets approved, then the property is actually formally changed its zoning from CA, what it is now, to PD, plan development. And at that point, the plan development process would be done, but that still wouldn't allow the developer or applicant to construct anything. They would then proceed with a site plan review to the Planning Commission for approval of various phases or particular sites that they actually do want to proceed with construction. And each one of those phases or districts would require a separate permit and a separate review and approval by the Planning Commission. So that's a quick overview of the process. We are at the very beginning of that. However, it's already been mentioned that this project has been reviewed and looked at the township for many years. In the packet, I included the 2007 preliminary plan that had received approval and was moving forward until the recession hit, and then the project was essentially abandoned. It was picked back up by the current applicants in 2016. At that time, 40 acres was removed away from the 2007 plan. They also went through that process. They later reacquired the 40 acres, came back in 2019. And then we were ready for an actual public hearing in December of 2020 with the preliminary review of the plan. And then the applicant decided to no longer pursue the 40 acres that are located to the west, and has since made some other slight revisions on the north and south property, which triggered it to come back to conceptual review. So now we have a current conceptual plan. We're essentially back at stage 1 of this plan development process. In this particular project, right there is the regulating plan. Now, just so you know, it's tilted on its side, so M59 divides the property. M59 is not a north-south street, it's an east-west street. So everything on the left side of that would be the north side of the property, and everything on the right side would be on the south side of the property. There are 4 distinct areas within this development. There is a purple area, which is single-family only. And those are designed to be nothing other than single-family. During the review of this project, we did have residents that own land that abutted that had concerns about this development, and that was viewed as something the Planning Commission and the board wanted to do to minimize any impact, was to have single family that would back up to those properties. Then the blue area, and it's on both the north side and the south side, it's also referred to as a single family district, but it actually allows single family homes and then some attached motor court or duplex. I might not be referring to it correctly, but they're duplex motor court and quad motor court buildings. They're owner occupied. They are somewhat of a new concept, and those would be possibly in the blue area. The lighter green is what's referred to as a mixed-use area, and this would have a mixture of commercial development as well as residential, possibly on top of the commercial buildings there. There'd be a maximum of 66 units in that lighter green area. And then the darker green is commercial only. There would be no residential in that area. This was designed and is thought of as being somewhat of a walkable community, that there's an interest to have some of these mixed-use, walkable style developments. This is the goal of the special planning area, and that's the general proposal of the project. I just wanted to give a cursory review of the process as well as the project itself, and I'll be available to answer any questions you might have.
I have a question. The connectivity beyond the south parcel, light blue, which would have been maybe at one point connecting into the Giovanetti property, is that what those little cutouts might?
Stubs.
They are potential interconnectivity to a future development?
Well, yes, there would be, we would ask there be some connection to that property. However, being that this plan is conceptual, the layout could be slightly different than what you're seeing. This plan is designed to identify maximum density of units and commercial in these various categories.
But it will have some
Yeah.
connectivity somewhere.
Yep. Did that answer the question?
Mm-hmm.
You know, the markets can change in the future. By the time you get to building this, the market could fluctuate. Maybe it's more of a demand of single family. Of course, the applicant has a significant investment in REUs, and his goal is to try to use those REUs. But if the market were to change where he just wanted to do single-family, he could change that street network a little bit to accommodate that, so it might look a little different, but he could never exceed, the goal here is to, he'd
Max.
never exceed the number of units there. And if he used more single-family in that blue area, then he's probably not going to come close to the maximum.
So at this point, would turn it over to the folks from Mayberry, and we have your presentation up here, and could just go through some of the things to highlight the flavor and some of the elevations that you have in your packet? Would that be okay with you folks?
Sure.
And anytime that we get through that, if any board members have any questions or comments, please speak up. So, Bob, are you running the,
I have what's in the packet. I mean, I can scroll through this if you want to.
yeah, I think whatever you have on your screen, just kind of go through.
Yeah, just let me know if you want me to backpedal, direct me, but I'll go through what you have in the packet here.
Well, I'll start with the change and just a overview.
Yeah, that'd be great. And Bob, if you could you just move your microphone a little closer?
Okay, can I take the mask
Sure.
off?
You certainly can, if you wish.
Just an overview of where we've been at. We had the 40 acres, had an apartment project, and so we had separated in that most of the attached product and the single family, divided it by the north and south, which is now the piece we have, and most of the attached and high density was on the 40 acres. So when we did not purchase the 40 acres, we had to rework the conceptual plan to allow us to use the REUs that came with the property. So we had to increase the density to use that. And for the most part, we didn't change a whole lot. We were able to have a mix of products in the single-family district, and it came up, probably the biggest comment in Planning Commission was the single-family may be not the best term, as opposed to a mid-density or low-density project. But the single-family always included 5-unit townhouses, duplexes, and some other product. That was not on the conceptual plan, again, because we had the attached product on the 40 acres. So on the conceptual plan now, we have attached product to allow us to use the REUs, basically, to increase the density. We added back the motor courts, which were in a previous iteration, and I think everyone that really had good response, and there was some disappointment when we didn't have those in the concept plan.
And Bob, on this plan here, are those the ones on the south side, in the middle, next to the courtyard?
And the north side in
Yes.
blue.
Yes, right there.
Yep.
And a motor court, just a brief description is, it's a driveway that allows you to serve 2 units on each side of the driveway on the surface street, and then 2 units in the back, with the private drive being kind of an alley. So it creates like a little cul-de-sac. It's detached for the most part, single family. We do have a duplex motor court as well.
And you have some drawings or renditions of those in this document, I believe?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. That's single family there. There's some of the attached product, the townhome. There's the duplex motor court. So the duplex motor court's kind of cool. This came from Don Evans, an Orlando architect. From the street, you see a single-family house, but the motor court, they're attached front to back with the garages separating the units. So you can see how you drive in off the street, go to the garages, have some parking in the back, but each unit has a front porch, and from the street, it's a single-family look. It's kind of cool. So we did add back the motor courts, and probably the biggest real change that we did. So the single-family district is 5 units or less. And we have a flat unit that's 3 to 5 unit, and a townhome unit, and the motor courts.
And we keep going into the mixed-use district, or I don't want to jump.
Is there any questions?
In the mixed-use district, we made a couple of changes, and basically, we just allowed a little more flexibility. We maintained the 66 units as a cap of residential, but before we could just do townhomes or apartments over commercial. We added back that we could also do a motor court. It just made sense of why restrict. To me, the townhome is not necessarily the most ideal type of housing. So we wanted to leave ourselves flexibility based on how that would get developed, where the commercial would be bought, what property we might be using for housing. And we have the motor court, as well as the flat and the townhome. Also, we put in single family, that if we wanted to, we could build single family. I think to me that's just an improvement. It gives us flexibility. So that's the 3-unit, flat unit. 3 2-car garages, 1 unit down, 2 units up. There's also a 5-unit flat. Yep, that's it. So 2 units down, 3 units up. As well as we could do the, what was previously the apartment building that we had on the 39 acres. We could do up to a 14-unit building. I don't see that happening because, again, we're capped at 66 units. But what we wanted to do is be able to utilize the land efficiently and respond to how that would develop. So in the end, there's a housing that's it's called missing middle housing. And what that is kind of the basis of how this project is evolving. And missing housing is where, instead of just being monolithic, all single family, all apartments, all townhouses, all some type of product, the middle missing said that housing used to be integrated. There would be a motor court next to a 5-unit flat or a 3-unit flat, and adjacent to single-family clustered housing. I think it allows us flexibility. The place we did not allow flexibility was, again, on the north side, abutting the neighbors to the north, and we called out single-family homes only, detached single-family homes only. So not a lot of change from what you've seen, but we did the site plan to utilize 350 units, I believe, and then the 66 units that are in the, that could be built in the mixed use. And again, if the mixed use all sold as commercial, there'd be no residential units there. But in the event that it didn't sell at all, there'd be a maximum of 66 units that we could put there. So conceptually, I don't think anything has changed, except we've applied some of the attached product back into the single-family district, basically to get up to the 400-plus REUs that we're purchasing. If you have any questions, or David, did you have anything to add?
Covered it well.
So on your, the commercial district that's on here right now, Are those located right on 59?
Pleasant Valley.
Or is that everything in dark green?
That's everything in dark green.
Dark.
So what is it mixed use? Just to the south of that, the lighter green on the south side?
The lighter green is the mixed use, correct.
All right. Questions from any board members?
I don't have any issues with the concept plan as it's shown here. My biggest concern is the flexibility that we're allowing, and I have a concern about that property abutting 59. I'd hate to see residential homes that close to M59. As it's designed now, you've got retail office on that stretch on the south side, which looks fine. And again, I'm just concerned about getting residential too close to the M59 there, but that'll all play out in the market. I understand your concerns, but that would be a concern of mine. I'd hate to see that.
Someone?
So at the planning commission, you said on both the north and the south side that you have gas stations that you either have somebody in the works for, or that, is going to have that space. My concern is with the houses that are on Fenton Road already, they're on well. My concern is having, in the dark green section, a gas station that close to those homes.
Okay. The gas station, the dark green, has not changed a great deal in two conceptual plans, but we didn't really change that. But that is, that property is owned by a commercial developer, so he's partnering with us on that.
Bob, there have been some questions on access onto 59 and 23. Can you just kind of go over how you're working with MDOT and those challenges that you may have or may not have for access onto 59 and even Pleasant Valley and Fenton Road?
Okay. We were able to get from MDOT the permit or the access points on this plan. We were working on the 40 acres having its access, but then dropped that. So we resolved, I believe, with MDOT this quite a while ago, a few years ago. But it'll be a right in, right out only. You will not be able to pull out and make a left turn by crossing the oncoming lane and turning left. You'll be turning out right and doing what I call a Michigan left. I'm not sure what the term should be, but that's where I see it. You'll be turning right and then doing a turnaround to go left. And it'll be right in only, obviously. But those were the biggest things. We've worked with the county on the access points to Fenton Road. And we've talked to them about the drive access into that commercial project.
And previously, there was just some discussion perhaps that a traffic signal may go at that intersection, but even, it could potentially even have one there now before this development comes in. Is there any update on that?
Well, the MDOT says that a traffic signal is indicated for this property before, years ago. It has been. So there was discussion about, well, I should put it in. And we got with MDOT and I can't remember the gentleman's name, but we had a meeting with the engineers and this gentleman that we had lead the meeting. And the permit that they gave us was they would put in the light at Fenton Road, and then we would worry about it as density occurred, reacting to not just this project, but other projects that may go in, in the area.
Thank you. Other questions?
I have a question with regards, I'm trying to use my pointer here. This looks like an entrance here. There's one in the commercial area. On the north side, though, the only one on, is right there.
Correct.
So that means that all those people, as a secondary way of getting in and out, gonna have to go through this commercial area. And, I mean, is the property right here, is that owned by you? That property?
Those are homes.
It isn't.
Or is that a
Those are
home?
homes.
It's a home.
Those are homes? So that's not part of the,
They're existing homes.
These are homes here. Is this particular
I mean,
one?
I like 90% of what I've seen, but I'm a little bit concerned about a secondary way of getting out of there, if there was a problem up here.
So, go ahead.
What is the piece of land that's coming out of the single-family homes, the purple that's going up to Fenton Road there? Is
It's
that
at
not?
the very, very edge of the project.
Yeah, that-
Oh, over here?
that is-
Right there.
That is part of our property there. It's just a sliver of property. It's not wide enough for a vehicular ingress or egress.
The density on the north side doesn't really require two exits. There's not a burden on that, especially with the right out only. There's not a burden on that intersection. The question would be for emergency access, a secondary entrance in case that was blocked or in case something happened. So that would be supplied by the commercial drive that would go through the commercial and then up into the residential. Again, that would be,
That
for
would-
some reason that there was a blockage stopping people from getting in the main entrance.
So that would be emergency only?
I wouldn't look at it as,
No.
and it wouldn't be planned to be an in and out for the residents living there, cutting all through the commercial. But it would be then possible to use as an emergency. People could use it, there's no way to stop them, but it's not going to be convenient, and I don't know why they would do it.
Yeah. It didn't strike me as being convenient either.
No.
Even if they were going up to Fenton Road, if they were going east, they were going to have to drive back all the way past the project again to make the Michigan turnaround. If they're going west, it's easier to get out of the main entrance. So it didn't seem like a,
And they'd be weaving through
Right.
a parking area and buildings rather than just going straight out to 59, so.
The other question I have is, what is this right here? What is that? Can you see it right there?
Yeah, that's property that's set aside for donation to the fire department.
For a substation.
Pardon me?
The fire substation property.
That's what I thought that's what it was, but I just wanted to make sure that's,
Yes.
And do you plan on having sidewalks through the entire complex for walkability?
Yes.
And forgive me, but the old pattern book that kind of started this back a long time ago, from the lighting perspective and that type of thing, is there that same continuity in this project with street lighting and so on? There's kind of a theme
Feel.
or a feel to it?
Yes.
Okay. Matthew, do you have any questions?
No, I agree with Joe. I'm very pleased with what I've seen.
Kathy?
No questions.
Summer, anything else?
I like your homes though, a lot of character in those homes.
Well, thank you.
Different.
So if we were to go somewhere, do you have a project similar to this anywhere? Up in maybe the Lansing area or?
Well, I have the parts and pieces. I don't know that
Okay.
I have the combination altogether.
Yep.
in
How
one.
about that, where can we see a motor court?
I can get you directions in East Lansing.
Yeah?
We,
I can send those to you.
He said Larry Fox knows, so
Yes.
I'll get with Larry.
We don't have to go to Orlando to take a look?
No,
It's Lansing.
no.
Oh,
We inherited a project that was fourplex units, and rather than doing attached fourplexes, I basically split them up and did 4 units with a private drive, the motor court. And it was well-received, and we have a project, it's pretty cute. Larry has been there
Yeah, I'm gonna go.
a couple times, I believe, and has spoke highly of it, so.
Troy, do you have anything further this evening?
No, that I'm very interested in comments that you have, because we will take these comments as we move to the next phase and
You stop right
incorporate
there,
those
Bob.
in to our preliminary review, as well as the comments from the planning commission.
This page 26 layout, the side, it looks, the siding, is this exposed? Where are these sides exposed? Is there a lot of property between them? I mean, it's just so much siding on see the center of it, the side, the end view?
So in the preliminary phase, we'll have that detail provided in the southern look.
Okay,
It'll show the separation between the homes.
okay.
And I do have just one last question. And it goes to elevations, because the south side of the road, 59 sits up quite a lot higher, I believe, than the actual
Property.
property. Is your vision to pretty much keep that elevation the same that exists on that south property in relationship to 59?
Yes, I don't see us doing an extensive change of elevation. I mean, we have to balance the dirt on site. So there's no hill or excess dirt where we're going to build that up tremendously.
So when we look at the commercial property or the mixed use, in some cases, I think, that's out on 59, will those most likely be the same elevation as the houses, or would they potentially be a little higher than the houses themselves? Or haven't you gotten that much detail yet?
Haven't gotten that much detail yet.
I thought in previous plans for that corner commercial area that was a natural berm that was going to be kind of used to hide the commercial development.
Yes, in the plan, and the planning commission brought this up as well, as to include those details in the preliminary application. We did berm up. How that is relative to the highway, though, I'm not sure that it's going to
Yeah, 'cause
block all views of the highway.
It's really an interesting piece of property, because right there at the corner of Pleasant Valley and 59, it basically is the same elevation. The farther you go to the west, the 59's like this, and that property kind of drops down even further, I think the farther west you get. Until you get to Giovanetti's, and then it kind of comes back up again. So I was just curious as to if you plan on doing a lot of land balancing, or?
We will do some, but there's not like a mountain or a hill we're going to be cutting and just
Right.
moving. We have a limitation of what we can do.
Very good.
I have one more question. So with the motor course as well, I know they were talking about the sidewalks for the front, and you had parking for visitors, guests, whatever. What about the rear, like C and D? Would those have parking back there as well, or would that butt up to another grouping of the homes?
There's a couple things we can do with the motor court. Number one, we try to get a 20-foot driveway off from the private drive, so everyone has 2 cars they can park outside their garage. We can also, at the end of the cul-de-sac, do a 2 and 3 unit parking pad, depending on what product we're using and how we're laying this out.
So the only way, so the people that have C and D potentially would have to walk down the driveway to get to those homes. There's no separate, I guess, sidewalk.
No, there's not a sidewalk going up each side of the
Okay.
alley, no.
Well, Bob, do you have anything else?
I do not. I appreciate you guys coming out, and thanks for your presentation.
And then Troy, if you could please just let everybody know what the next steps are and what the next part of the process would be.
So assuming that the applicant has heard the comments from the planning commission and the board and has decided to move forward with the project, the next step will be the preliminary review. The applicant will take these comments, make some tweaks to the plan, they'll submit it for staff, staff will review it, get back to the applicant. When the plan is ready, we will notice the request, it'll have a public hearing at the planning commission, and we'll have a public hearing just in this exact room with the planning commission, and we'll go over the project. And then that planning commission will forward a recommendation to the board. We'll be back here at the board with the preliminary plan and a recommendation from the planning commission. And assuming that all went well, then the applicant would essentially have his attorneys prepare the master deed and the preliminary development agreements, and then our attorneys would review those, and we would be back at the planning commission and the board with those documents. And then assuming all of that went well, the applicant would submit the actual site plan of exactly what it is he's going to build. We wouldn't be talking about what the market at that point is. He would be submitting an actual project, then we would be reviewing it to be consistent with the plan development that was approved.
And that could be in phases. It
Yes.
wouldn't be everything at once.
Yeah, it's highly unlikely it would be everything at once. It would be in maybe one building at a time, or the single-family residential at one time, or that would be up to the applicant to see how they want to proceed.
And Trustee O'Connell, I owe you an apology. Do you have any? Do you have any
You know, I
comments?
think everyone is, I was also worried about the two gas stations, north and south, especially with the 4 residents and the private road down Fenton Road. And concerned about the parking. You know, when you have only 2 slots available per home, where's the extra cars gonna go if you only have one access point? Are they gonna be plugging up the roads in the development itself?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Should I answer that?
Sure.
Okay. Well, in single family, there's quite often only room for 2 cars to park in the driveway outside the garage. So yes, they would use the road and then walk into the units. The front units would, you know, be just like it was a single family street, or they would go down the alley to the back 2 units. So we could create a couple of parking spaces to be used by anyone back at the end of the cul-de-sac. But beyond that, it's the 2 cars plus the 2 cars that would be in the garage, and excess parking would be in the street.
Thank you. Again,
And I'd also say, we have that, and now it's been several years. That's really not been an issue in the development we did, as far as parking, plugging up streets or whatever. It just really has not been an issue at any point that I know of.
Well, on behalf of the whole community and Heartland Township, thank you for your time this evening, and we look forward to our next gathering.
Thank you for taking the time
Thank you.
out on a Tuesday and doing this, so
Yep.
thank you.
Thank you. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Or
A motion to adjourn by Clerk Schofu, second by Trustee Petrucci. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Have a safe trip home.